Grace be unto you and peace from God our Father and from the Lord Jesus Christ. I was glad when they said to me, let us go into the house of the Lord. I'm Father Steve Sellers, and thank you for tuning in today for this brief daily message of hope. I was thinking this morning about some of the comments I have heard over this past weekend and before. People are suffering still right now, and there's a lot of confusion and concern about what's going to be happening in the future, whether jobs that have been lost are ever going to come back. And people are still perplexed about what the future holds. And when we get ourselves in situations like that, it's not uncommon for people to think that things are bad, things are getting worse, they're getting worse. Well, it must be the end of the world. And there are people with very deep thinking right now about maybe it's the end of the world. Now, I've got to tell you that people of faith have been thinking thoughts like that for 2,000 years. The entire New Testament in the Bible is written with a great sense of urgency that the end is coming soon. Even the last words of the book of Revelation, Jesus says, "Behold, I'm coming soon." And so we hold on to that. We know he's coming. We know there's going to be a second coming. We know there's going to be tribulation. There always is tribulation in our world, like we're seeing now. But I was musing on the fact that I've learned so many songs in my life about the end of the world. I mean, they're more than I can really count. I did a quick search this morning to see how many songs or movies have had the word apocalypse in them, in the titles, or have talked about the apocalypse or the end of days. And they're more than we can count. It seems like every other movie that's come out over the last 20 years has something about death and coming back from death and the dead who aren't really dead and the post-apocalyptic world after the Great Tribulation has occurred and what's going to happen. It seems like it's everywhere. I remember the first song I learned on the piano, 1962. I've been playing the piano for about 6 years by then, it seems like. I started when I was 4 years old, and I remember learning the song written by Arthur Kent and Sylvia Dee and recorded by the great Skeeter Davis, called "The End of the World." And we know, of course, that Skeeter Davis wasn't singing about the end of the world as we know it, because the last words in it said, it ended when you said goodbye to me. So it's the death of a relationship, not the end of the world. And then I remember a couple years after that learning to play on the guitar and the piano Barry McGuire's song that was written by P.F. Sloan called "The Eve of Destruction." And of course, Barry McGuire was writing what amounted to, or was singing, a protest song about the turmoil and civil rights and the unrest in the Middle East and the war going on in Southeast Asia and the escalating numbers of dead and protests that were mounting. And he said, "Don't you believe that we're on the eve of destruction?" And that was a very powerful song, but I've got to tell you, I like that song for a totally different reason. It is the only song written in the English language in the history of time that uses the word coagulating in it. Yes, it uses the word coagulating. The verse is, yeah, my mind's so mad, feels like coagulating. I'm sitting here just contemplating. I can't trust the truth. It knows no regulation. But when he's talking about my blood feels like coagulating, I love that. It's the only song that ever has had that word in it. But there were other songs, even the Beatles in 1969, as they were recording their very last song as a four-piece band before their breakup in late 69 and into early 1970, recorded a song called The End. Now, it's not apocalyptic, but it has sort of a haunting little part to it. A crescendo up to the end of their time together as a four-piece band. And then since then, in the 70s, there were all sorts of songs about the end. It's coming upon us. A lot of them had to do with the end of relationships, or the end of marriages, or the loss of a child. There's some haunting songs written about the many difficult things we go through in our lives. And none of them mean that the end of the world is coming. As a matter of fact, the one who gets the final word on this is the Lord Jesus. I was reading in Mark chapter 13, where Jesus is talking about the end. He talks about the end of the days for his apostle. He talks to them for the end of the days for the temple in Jerusalem. And yes, the end of time. And here's what he says. Mark 13, verse 32. No one knows about that day or hour. Read that again. No one knows about that day or hour, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Be on guard, be alert. You do not know when that time will come. It's like a man going away. He leaves his house and puts his servants in charge, each with his assigned task, and tells the one at the door to keep watch. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know the day or the hour. We don't know when it's going to happen. Whether the Lord comes for us all together at the end of the age, or whether he comes for us one at a time, like he did for the 3 people that I buried last week. We know that our days are numbered in this life, but that doesn't mean that's the end. God will always have the end. So my word of hope for us today is look up and see the sun shining. You've been given the gift of another day today. If you're alive, make the most of it. Do what you can to be of service to others, and put your hope in the Lord. And don't panic and don't worry, because the one who created everything in the beginning is still in charge. I hope you have a blessed day today in this new week, in this 3rd week in the season of Lent. And God willing, I will see you right here again tomorrow.